Connell Barrett, world famous golf writer turned dating coach. I'm so excited to connect with you on this level to talk about your new book. But I also want to kind of have you introduce yourself to the audience because I was a huge follower of yours for many years and you were deep into the golf scene and you made a
Right.
wonderful career transition. So I'd like to hear about that before we head further down the road of the winning pickup lines and how consent is sexy these days and all kinds of other fun stuff.
Right. I'm such a cliche. Just another golf journalist turned dating coach. We're so sick of this. It's like actors who direct, right? It's such a no. So I guess there's actually some lines to connect here because golf/golf writing was a huge passion of mine. And I also loved playing golf because it was so hard, right?
Hmm.
Golf is hard to do well. And so I got into golf journalism because I wanted to write about it. I loved it, but also because I wanted to play free golf and get lessons and get
Mm.
good at it. And similarly, when I left my old job at Golf Magazine and Sports Illustrated covering golf, I got I had already gotten into this, but I also began studying the art of connecting with women, the art of dating. How do you approach? How do you get out of the friend zone? How do you find confidence and find true love? And I realized that, oh, I pretty much shifted into this career because just like golf, girls are challenging. Dating is challenging. So it was about because I love the subject. I love learning how to be a better man through the lens of your dating life. And also I realized that golf and girls, two of the greatest challenges I've ever faced. And maybe that's why I've tackled both topics.
I love it. That's what life's all about is taking on challenges then you have a passion and an interest for. Um, yeah, you're right. They're both pretty challenging. So you mentioned this getting out of the friend zone is one of the first topics. And is that a huge deal these days? Is like a major complaint of men trying to make that jump or something?
Yeah, I would say the top three or four problems that single men face in their dating lives is in no particular order. How do you talk to women? How do you flirt and create that attraction? How do you approach? Every single straight man I've ever met has wanted to approach an attractive woman, but most of them can't, don't know how, feel fear. And the friend zone is a big one too, where a guy might be getting a lot of dates or have a lot of women in his life who he talks to and is interested in, but they only see him as a quote unquote friend. Or a guy might have a lot of this was me, by the way, uh, back in the day, 15 years ago, I was getting plenty of dates, but then I would get that day after text message that said, "Hey, I had fun, but I'm not really feeling that spark. But hey, let's be friends. Let's hang out some other time, but just as friends." And don't get me wrong, I think having female friends is great, and we shouldn't just look at women as they should like me as somebody sexual and romantic. But when there's genuine, real chemistry between two people, or there could be, but that guy doesn't know how to sort of channel that, what I call man to woman communication, channel that romantic
Mhm.
vibe, then he is going to be friend zoned by a woman who wants to like him, but she can't feel it. And I think one of the biggest myths about dating is that women put us in the friend zone, which is not true. Guys do it to themselves.
Ooh.
We do it to ourselves, and women are simply the ones who are saying, okay, you put yourself in the friend zone. I can't help it. It is what it is. I'm going to go date some other guy who makes me feel the way I want a man to make me feel.
Mm. Wow. It seems like there's possibly a tightrope here that we have to walk carefully. I like the work of John Gray, Men Are from Mars, Women Are from Venus, David Dita, The Way of the Superior Man. But there's this
Mm,
message that people are attracted to someone who's confident, decisive. They express their needs and their wants. They take charge in a certain situation, and the female biological drive is to be cared for and be protected and have that sense, that feeling. But then today we don't want to be a jerk ass and be
Right.
dictating all the shots and saying the lady will have the steak and I will have the salmon. That's kind of old school, and
Right.
that day's gone, and women are empowered and liberated. So maybe you could talk to us about that tightrope if it exists. I'm asking a question, but it seems to me the first thing that hit me was like, yeah, you're in the you just got put in the friend zone because you're such a nice guy and you're not going to make an aggressive move and upset the woman. But then you're on your seventh date and you still haven't said, hey, come here, I got to grab you. So here we
Yeah,
go. Connell's going to
exactly.
set us up here. He's going to set us straight.
Absolutely. The friend zone is of our own making. And the good news is that we can make the choice to escape it. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying you can guarantee that every woman's going to be attracted to you. I don't define the friend zone as an attractive woman only wants to be my friend. That's not the definition of it. Lots of people aren't going to want to date me. Lots of women won't want to date me. The friend zone is a woman who wants to feel a certain way about me, about you, about any man. She likes you on paper. She finds you attractive, but she doesn't, but she's just quote unquote not feeling it because of you, your behavior as a man. You're treating her more like a pal or a buddy. You're talking about business or politics or being overly polite and supplicating on a date instead of being really emotionally vulnerable, being a man, being honest, making a move when the time is right, flirting, letting her know you find her devastatingly sexy if that's how you feel. And the great news about this, as I mentioned in my book, is that nice guys can and should and will get the girl. You can women, there's a great quote, a beautiful woman once said to me, nice guys are sexier than six-pack abs. We don't want to date jerks. We don't want to date quote unquote bad boys. We don't want to date assholes. We want to date a nice guy. And then she added, as long as he has a backbone, as long as he has some strength, he has a steel spine, he can make the move, he can lead us on a great date, he knows how to flirt with us. Brad, I'm the nicest guy in the world, pretty much. I literally help little old ladies cross the street. I volunteer at a blind residence. I'm not saying this to impress anybody. I'm just saying this to let your viewers realize that, hey, you can be the nicest guy on the planet. You can be that sweet, nice gentleman. At the same time, you can still be a man with a woman on a date and make her feel the way we want her to feel, so that if there's that mutual interest, you can smash out of the friend zone and stop hearing the words let's just be friends and start hearing let's go back to your place.
Or hearing, hey, I'm not feeling it, and cut your losses, right? Instead of these things that linger on where you're uncertain and you're interpreting this text differently than yesterday's. And I feel like there's possibly a lot of that going on where you got to cut ties if it's not a big connection. And I guess I could ask a follow-up question. There's how much of uh, this idea of chemistry do you ascribe to, where you're going to tell in the first minute? Dr. Wendy Walsh, I think, mentioned this on one of my interviews with hers. In 4 seconds, the female can tell whether she's going to go to bed with the man, or some,
Right.
these stats that we hear a lot.
Yeah. There's a great line in Californication where Hank Moody says, a woman knows in the first 30 seconds if she wants to fuck, marry, or kill the guy. I think there's a lot of truth
Are
in
those
that. Maybe,
exclusive? Oh no.
maybe a little bit of everything.
Right.
But I think that, I'm sorry, Brad, I lost train of thought because I took a
I
side
know it's because
tangent there. What was your question?
my questions are too
What was the
rambling, but
question? It's all
um,
right.
let's see. The question was, is that chemistry thing legit, where
Yeah,
you are going to know if there's a real connection in the first minute? And the research talks about the smells and the different immune systems and things like that,
mm,
where you're not going to be attracted to your first cousin, is how the storyline goes. And then
right.
when is there something such as chemistry that it's not going to be working hard to get it 6 months later?
Yeah, I think there is real chemistry that you can't force or fake. It has to be organic. And that's just nature doing its thing. At the same time, we can definitely put our thumb on the scale a little bit as men. We can do things that help amplify that inherent chemistry that might be there. Maybe the natural chemistry is there, but it's sort of low burning embers. We want to learn as men, we want to learn how to put a little gasoline on that and have a more of a brush fire as the date or the dates go on. So what I teach men to do, among other things, is be able to sort of channel. I call this, there's a channel of communication. I call it man to woman communication. It's a frame that a man needs to make sure that on a date or in a dating context that he creates a context so that both himself and the woman understand that this is a story of boy meets girl, and that the communication is man to woman, by which I mean maybe it's flirting, maybe it's teasing, complimenting her, busting her proverbial balls, pulling her proverbial pigtails, being yourself, as cliched as that is, being what I call radically authentic. Part of that
Mm,
is getting in touch with your desires as a man and letting a woman know how you're feeling about her. And through this law of kind of contagious emotions, a lot of women are going to feel that connection and chemistry. Some
mm,
aren't. And that's totally
mm.
fine. We're not trying to attract every woman. We're trying to attract the women who are really into Connell, really into Brad, really into your sort of core persona. And the cool thing about this is you can let go of the dates that don't have that connection. It's not anything lacking in you. It might just be that she's the Stones, you're the Beatles. That's cool. Find a Beatles girl. The Beatles are the greatest band of all time. It doesn't mean you're not enough. It just means, oh, we're two different types, and that's fine. On to the next potential soulmate.
You think you can find that quickly if you're attuned and there's no, noise in your in your operation? You're going to have one date and realize it, or maybe not.
It will take many reps to get to that point. I don't know that
Mm,
you can. A man certainly knows if he's physically attracted to a woman right away, right? However, it might take a little bit more than a date to realize if the two of you are emotionally connected. If you have your what I call the big life stuff aligned, we need our big life stuff to be relatively aligned to have a long-term potential together. Religion, age, where you live, things like that, kids, no kids, things like that. So that can take time. But I do think that I do agree with the idea that chemistry, that raw kind of animal attraction, is you're both going to know on the first date if it's a hell yes, or if it's a maybe, or if it's a hell no. And if it's a hell yes, obviously great. If it's a maybe, have a second date. Some
mm,
people need a little time to kind of open up and get loose, get comfortable. If it's a
yeah.
hell no, life's too short, move on.
If it's a hell yes, could that possibly get in the way, cloud judgment, lead you down a path that's, going to be a disaster? I mean, I kind of feel like that story comes up frequently, where you just have massive, chemical spark, physical attraction, but we're skipping over some important parts of getting to know each other, and maybe you're not
Yeah.
radically authentic because you're just too busy, playing the game or something.
Yeah, I guess it could create a problem. I suppose if a man and a woman really hit it off on a first date and it's that burning brush fire of chemistry and they get too intimate too quickly before they find out that, hey, you want kids, I don't, or you're moving next week and I just came to this town, that's a problem. Or maybe one of the people, this is usually something that happens with women, but it can also happen with men. Maybe you go to bed too quickly and maybe you get too emotionally invested too quickly, especially if you have a lot of strong emotional links to sex, which I certainly do. And yeah, I'd rather go too slow than too quickly.
Mhm,
So there's something fun about what's that great Carly Simon song, Anticipation. It's kind of
mhm,
fun to build up to it and make sure you're both ready and that you're not jumping into bed slash each other's lives too quickly.
mhm, mhm. Can you talk more about this term that you've coined, radical authenticity, and
Yeah.
especially in terms of how it might conflict with some of the popular information out there? Because it seems like, some of John Gray's stuff, which I love, and I think about it every day. And one of them is, hey, you got to stay calm, cool, and collected as the man. You got to be the guy in control, the kung fu master, and that means eating your little petty, hurt feelings and things like that, and going off and doing testosterone boosting activities, and then coming back to the relationship refreshed, where you don't have to nitpick your woman and make her feel unprotected. And that's not the same as radical authenticity and showing the real you and showing how your feelings do get hurt when she talks too long at the party to another man or whatever was going on in your head. Where do we
Right.
balance that?
I agree with the general sentiment of Gray's philosophy, and who am I to criticize him? He sold a hell of a lot more books than I have so far, so I admire him for that. At the same time, I think that radical authenticity, in a couple of sentences, it means leaning into who you truly are at your core and aligning your thoughts, words, and actions from that place at the highest frequency possible. It doesn't mean, oh, what am I thinking and feeling right now? I'm butthurt because you flirted with another guy. In other words, it doesn't mean be an open wound. It means be an open book.
Uh-huh.
Have something of value, but be a very transparent and open about that. You can absolutely open up to a woman about how you're feeling, even if it's something that's scary. I would argue that that's actually a sign of strength, a sign of value.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day and the end of the date, what a woman wants, it comes down to two words. She wants something that has relevant value to her life. Women want men of value. My definition of a man of value is a man who knows who he is, who is in touch with who he is, and speaks, acts, thinks from that place of alignment. Let me try to get a bit more specific about what that means. On a first date, which I've been on a lot of recently because I try to
Mm.
practice what I preach, I'm going to let a woman know that I'm going to be myself, pardon the cliche. I'm probably going to tell dad jokes because that's my sense of humor. I'm going to talk about some of the nerdy books on my wall. I'm going to, when she says, are you into this cool thing that I like? I'm not going to lie to her and tell her that I
Mm.
am. I'm going to say, no, I've never gone ziplining in my life. Tell me about it.
Mm.
I'm going to be willing to tell her about my failed first marriage if it comes up, and talk about the thing that I screwed up and how awful and lonely and rejected I felt, just because these are all part of who I am. In other words, I'm going to have the courage to show the vulnerability and put myself out there. And in other words, another way I like to put that is be emotionally naked. And show her the real me, because if I wear a mask, if I try to put on
Mm.
some other mask, if I try to be an alpha male, which doesn't even exist, if I try to be a bad boy, if I try to say cool lines that I read on Reddit or some awful dating coach's website, then okay, maybe I can pass that off for a date or so, but the mask is going to slip off, and then she's going to meet the real me anyway. So
Mm.
I'd rather sit there on a first date and say, yeah, my favorite thing in the world is watching Jeopardy and writing down my score on my Jeopardy pad that goes back 4 years. She's either going to want to date that kind of super
Right.
nerd, or she's going to not, and that's totally cool. I want to find women who love my type. And that's what radical authenticity is about. It's being the best / realist version of you. And women who see value in you are going to go crazy for you.
Gee, it doesn't seem that hard, man. But we mess it up pretty well. Uh,
Yes.
Possibly, I mean, what you just described is, I guess it's not easy when you're sitting there in front of a real human and you're nervous and it's your first date or whatever. But it's certainly an easier path to go than, uh, you know, holding your pickup lines on your 3x5 card or whatever you
Yeah.
know,
I've done that
the
too.
okay, well, um,
Right.
let's talk through where that boundary is when you do want to be yourself, you do want to be authentic, but hey, I don't have an A game right now. I have a C minus because I'm traumatized from my previous breakup, and I just want to get out there and have fun, but
Mm,
I'm insecure, underconfident. What does the coach step in there and do? Since
mm.
you can't be whispering in his ear like some of the movies or with the earpiece, or how do we
I
get
can
that
do
that guy primed?
I can do a little bit of that in person when we go out to approach girls, but I don't like to do that because I wanted to come from him. So if you are traumatized from a last relationship, then you got to do a little work on yourself, perhaps before you start dating.
Mm,
You
right.
want to
Yeah.
walk into a first date or walk up to a woman with essentially a full cup, an overflowing cup of awesomeness, and be able to say, "Hey, I'm here to make your life better if you're open to it," not in an arrogant way, just in the sense that I have something to share. And so, yeah, don't go on any dates if you're still dealing
Mm.
with relationship trauma. Get that handled first. Again, you want to be an open book on that date, not an open wound. And to that point, I think that yeah, it's you could have C- game on a date. Women don't want a man who hits them with the cool James Bond lines or some fancy moves. I mean, if you make her laugh and giggle and are totally on that night, great. But something really powerful happens when you become congruent. Essentially congruent means you think, you speak, you act in an alignment with what you're feeling. So if you're feeling C-
Mm.
on your date, okay, there are some little moves and tricks to get that up to a B-, but if you're feeling it a C, then be that C date. Share with her what you're thinking and feeling. So one of my training for this, just so your listeners and viewers know, is I spent 5 years working with all these different dating coaches, pickup artists, approaching thousands of women, going on hundreds of dates. And one of the most powerful concepts I stumbled across was by being congruent, by basically saying and doing what you're thinking and feeling, you actually come across as way more confident than you might think to women,
Mm.
even if you feel like you're at a C-. Quick story. One of the most beautiful women I ever approached early on in my journey, I was with my coach on this rooftop bar in New York City, and I saw this brunette who looked like Dakota Johnson at the time, who was my big crush, or who became my big crush. And I said, oh, wow, I really want to talk to her, but I'm just not feeling it. He said, what are your thoughts? What would you love
Mm.
to say to her? What's the most honest thing you could say to her? And I said to him, I'm really nervous and shy, but I had to meet you. You're my type. He said, cool, there's your pickup line. Go. Give her that real vulnerable line. I walked over to her, tapped her on the shoulder, and said that. Hi, I know this is random, but I'm actually really shy and nervous, but you're totally my type. And she looked at me, she tilted her head and smiled, and she said, oh yeah, you're real shy. Hi, I'm I'm Amy. She thought
Right.
it was a line. She thought I was
Right.
a cool guy giving her a line, which instead
Yeah.
of a scared to death dork, giving her an honest feeling. So that kind of congruence is a really powerful sort of projection to give women because it's honest and it's in alignment. She's not getting some kind of weird shtick. And it's amazing how quickly that, and guess what? As soon as she smiled at me, I went from a C to an A.
Mm.
That's all it takes. So, but it takes courage to get that kind of confidence.
Mm.
You have to take action, in other words.
Yeah, it seems, can it be okay to not not call it a pickup line in your mind and just approach a female in the grocery store because you want to spread, good energy to the world, and you could say, uh, have you tried those onions before, or something just that doesn't have
Yeah,
a motive, and it might lead to
absolutely.
something.
Agree. I never use the word pickup line, almost never.
Yeah.
I don't even like the word approach, even though I use it a lot in
Yeah.
my book, because
Well, you
just for
call it
teaching
approach
purposes.
anxiety, so I want to ask you about that too.
Yeah, but
How to overcome that, but
I
yeah.
don't even love the word approach just because it puts me in the mind of like a baseball pitcher with a big wind up
Yeah,
and here's the pitch. That can
right.
create anxiety. To your
Yeah.
point, yeah, you're in a grocery store, you see a woman who intrigues you and might be open to chatting. I think of it as I call it opening.
Mhm.
In other words, open a conversation. So I'll say to a client, go, open, say hi to her.
Ooh.
Because yeah, we're not trying to pick her up, at least not at first. We're just trying to give. We're not trying to get anything. There's really no agenda here with any given quote unquote approach. The agenda, it'd be a nice benefit, a nice bonus if we hit it off and we like each other and we're on a date. Awesome. But the intention is not to get anything from her. The intention is to make her smile, give her a moment of genuineness, make her day or night a little bit better. And guess what? When you do that, when you make that shift, it does make the results better as a dividend of approaching this from a higher plane,
Mhm.
as opposed to get laid, get the number, get validation. No, 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 no. We want to give way, way more than we ever expect to receive. The more we give to women, the more they from an authentic, good intentioned place, Guess what? That changes your confidence. You stand taller, you feel better, you don't feel like a
Mm,
creepy pickup guy. You feel like a solid gentleman just out
mm,
chatting up people at Whole Foods. And that's actually the kind of vibe women want to be, opened with.
I imagine that the reps would really help here, where you just, as a matter of course, you're going to be friendly and conversant to whoever you come across. And it might be a dude in the park, and it might be a beautiful woman the next block down. But you're kind of, away from that stress and that pressure of thinking, oh, there's one that
Yeah.
really it really looks attractive to me, and now I gotta tighten up my game, and all of a sudden you get nervous.
Yeah, exactly. That's when I take guys out at night for in-person training. One of the things we do is we talk to so many people that the part of your brain that is focused on how attractive is she, what do I want, how's it going, that part of your brain switches off, and you go into this flow state. It's a
Mm,
flow state in the book Flow. Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi writes about this flow state we enter into in various vehicles of life, and in meeting women, socializing, going out in the world, you can enter this flow state when you talk to lots of people. Because you're right, if I'm a target hunter trying to pick up hot girls in a bar, I'm probably not going to be really present and free flowing. I'm going to be agenda driven.
mm,
But if I talk to cute couple, old lady,
mm,
nice plain Jane who maybe I'm not attracted to but friendly, all of a sudden I'm talking to a cool, sweet, smart, beautiful woman who I am interested in. Talking to her was so much easier because I just talked to these other 4 or 5 people. And now I'm talking to a woman who, if I was just trying to approach tens,
mm.
my knees would be shaking because I'd be so in my head about it. So yeah, you want to approach the world basically, and you're looking for that win-win, genuine chemistry when one of your people you're talking to is an attractive single woman.
Uh, Tell me about this in-person training. This sounds super exciting. So you have a client.
Mm,
I imagine you start with probably you're not heading out to the rooftop bar first and foremost, but maybe take us through that experience, how it works with your clients.
yeah, we will probably actually the way my personal training works is, you're right, it doesn't start with the rooftop right away. We do a little pre-game, pre-brief where we talk about goals. How I teach a system. I teach a 5-step system
Mm,
that essentially we make following the system the goal. Sort of like LeBron or Tiger Woods has their routine, right? They're focused on routine. They're focused on a great major league pitcher. All he's really focused on is the catcher's mitt. He's not saying, I'm going to pitch a no hitter tonight. So we fall in love with the process. We fall in love with the structure. And then we go out and we start socializing with people, gravitating to attractive women within reason, but also talking to anybody. And you never know who you might connect with. I took a client. His name is, I'll call him James. Took a client out a couple years ago. James at the time was about 50, and he had just gotten divorced after about a 25-year marriage. Really traumatic, really painful. He had literally not approached an attractive woman since the Clinton administration. So we went out one night and we're chatting up everybody. We're following this process. I call it the 5 master steps. I won't take you through all of them, but basically it's just about getting social, breaking the ice, and letting that radically authentic, confident self arise
mm,
once the fear subsides. And the reason why we don't just gravitate toward women is we talk to anybody. We started talking to this young man, mid-20s, nice guy, Army veteran. And about 2 minutes later, a beautiful Latina woman in a red dress comes next to him. I'm assuming they're boyfriend, girlfriend, but you never know. So I said one of the most important questions you can ask when you're out talking to people. Hey, how do you two know each other? They're brother and sister.
oh,
Next thing you know, James is talking to, her name is Sophia, and I'm talking to her brother. His back is to James and Sophia. Unbeknownst to the brother, I'm looking at James and Sophia against the bar, and I'm talking to the brother, finding out about his service. He serves in the military, great guy. And I'm watching James and Sophia, and I hear this and I see this. She takes his hands and says, "Yes, they're real." and places them on her chest, and they're all over each other. And I'm just talking to the brother thinking, I have a really weird job, a cool job, but a weird job. So that night, James went out for the first time in 25 years and connected with this beautiful, awesome, stunning woman. And all it happened, the reason it happened is just because he followed a process that gave him the courage to chat, flirt, open up. And yeah, so feel free to approach a guy, because he might have his beautiful sister with him at the bar.
A Connell success story from the real life world. That's awesome, man. Uh, so back to this 5-year journey that you went on,
Yeah.
and your checkpoint for your book promotion talks about this traumatic occurrence in your life with your getting married, and then, as you describe it, getting dumped 9 weeks after. Was
Yep.
that the catalyst for you to study and learn more about relationships? Or let's talk about how you got here a little more. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It was one of two catalysts. There were two, really. One was when my ex dumped me after 9 weeks. And as I say in the book, it was over so fast, we could have fought for custody of the wedding cake. So, so when that ended, I really felt rejected by all women, because the reason
Mm,
I married her, is wonderful, a woman as she was / is, very worthy, very wonderful woman who's since gone on to happiness and become a mom. But I didn't even want to marry her at the time, nor did she me. But we were both settling, right? And I was settling, and I think this is a recurring theme in dating and life in general, especially for
mm,
men, is we settle for what we can get. We settle for less instead of settling for more. So I was settling for the one woman who I thought wanted me, and then when she dumped me after 9 weeks, I felt rejected by all women. And over the following couple of years, I had a few dates, but nothing really clicked and connected. And what I really wanted to do was go out and meet women in New York City, where I was then living at the time. And I remember I was at the other inflection point was I was at a Starbucks in Park and 29th Street. And this beautiful brunette was sitting by herself. She looked like Katie Holmes, who was my crush at the time. And I tried so hard to approach her. I even walked toward her, but then I kind of walked around her table 2 or 3 times, like circling her like a frightened
mm.
shark. And I just couldn't summon the courage to say hi, to say something. And then she got up and left and walked out. And I said to myself, wow, there's the 1,000th woman I've wanted to break the ice with in real life, but couldn't do it. And that was when I went out and found a coach who helped me take the kinds of action that I wasn't able to take inside. And the reason why I felt that way is simply because I was afraid of rejection. I was afraid
Mhm.
that approaching a woman, if she liked me, that would be incredible. That might change my life. But if she didn't, I was afraid that would remind me that I was unworthy, that I was not good enough for women, which is how I felt. And
Mm.
that's the big bad wolf here of dating for men is we have to embrace rejection. Rejection is not as bad as we think it is. What's bad is rejecting yourself, is not approaching the woman or not taking the chance because you're afraid of rejection. I say go out and get rejected a shit ton. Just do not reject yourself, because that's the one kind of rejection you should fear.
Yeah, you're starting from the wrong point. Your cup's not full. And I guess that's where the fear of rejection comes from.
Absolutely. You feel that you have an empty cup, and if she turns you down, she's going to take the cup and go like
Shatter
this and go,
it.
yeah, and then smash it on the ground. But if your cup
Yeah.
is full and she just says, oh no thanks, I'm not interested in sipping from that cup, that's fine. Not everybody wants to sip that drink. uh, to stay on that metaphor for a second, or close to it, I part of the idea of being radically authentic is showing women that real, true, distilled self. Sort of like I want you to be a shot of Jameson, your version of a shot of Jameson. In other words, give her that real distilled version of you. Don't give her a watered down wine spritzer, which is how most guys date. Give her the real shot of whiskey. Maybe she won't want the drink, which is fine. Not everybody wants Jameson, but guess what? Women who like a nice shot of JMO are gonna catch a buzz on the good stuff, the real you.
Mm, mm.
But that cup's got to be full in your mind too.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely.
What do you see the women doing that you would, if they were listening and wanted some advice, on the other side of the coin, how can how can they up their game, or enhance the potential for connection instead of drama and nonsense?
Hmm. I think that for women who are looking for men, I assume you're talking about straight women, but for anybody, but I'm speaking to straight women, you know what men love? We love it when a woman takes a little bit of a chance to start, gives us a nice clear signal
Mm,
that we can talk to her. It doesn't mean that you have to approach us and make a big deal of it. You don't have to be super alpha and assertive if that's
mm,
not your style. But gosh, I remember once being on the subway here in New York City, and this really cool, cute girl just complimented me on my leather jacket and kind of with a smile. And that was all I needed to then keep the conversation going.
hmm
And that little like drop, I guess I would say to women, drop a handkerchief or two. We know how
mm,
hard it is to do that as men because it's kind of our job to go first. So when you can go first in real life, or at least give us a nice signal that you want us to say hi to you or you want to chat, we appreciate it so much. We also empathize because we know how hard it is, and
mm.
it's just such a it's we love it. So feel free to, if you see that
Feel
if you see that
free.
yeah, if you see that attractive man at Starbucks or at the gym or at a party, just say, hey, excuse me, I like your tie, I like your
Mm,
shoes, I like your t-shirt. It doesn't have to be super intense. You can still be ladylike, and just give him, drop that handkerchief, and I promise we'll pick it up and be happy that you dropped it.
right. Same advice for the other side. It doesn't have to be the ultimate James Bond smoothness. You could say a small compliment, right?
Yes. Yeah, start really simple, G-rated. This goes for men and women.
Mm,
That opening comment, that opening line, for the most part, it should be G-rated.
mm,
Uh,
yeah.
make it, here's a fun little kind of thought experiment. A lot of guys say, what do I say? What's a good opening line? Should I be flirtatious? Should I be really sexual? Should I be, I don't want to be in the friend zone. You're just, the point of an opener is just to open a conversation. It doesn't have to be super sexual. It can
Right.
be, in fact, it shouldn't be for the most part. Uh, I like to say, imagine that you had a wife or a girlfriend, and open with something that your imaginary wife or
Mm,
girlfriend would not be jealous of if you said that to a
mm,
strange woman.
nice.
In other words, hey, looking good, honey. No, 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 no good. But maybe, oh, hey, you're drinking chai latte. Very cool. That's what I'm drinking.
Hmm
What's your favorite kind? Or, what's your favorite kind of latte? It can be that simple. It's just, we just want, women are so used to being approached in the few men who do quote
Mm,
unquote approach, they do it in a very like alpha, aggressive, weird, creepy way. They objectify women. So if you just go in G-rated and
mm.
are friendly, that's very charming to women. Yeah, and that's all you need to kick things off.
Uh-oh, we're taking a detour, man. You're reminding me of a Tiger Woods story. So you probably
That's all
know
good.
it, but I remember, when this whole thing unwound, they were kind of talking about how did Tiger go from the nerdy college kid who his old girlfriend is interviewed on the documentary saying he was so sweet and shy and this and that, and then fast forward, and they're putting a little bit of blame on Charles Barkley, Michael Jordan in Vegas, and taking Tiger under their wing. But one of the exchanges they had was, Tiger confided to Charles and Michael that he was a little shy and didn't know how to approach women. And they took him aside and said, "Here's what you say:
Mm.
Hi, I'm Tiger Woods." And that was their life changing advice for the man. He went up with that A game, and what do you know? Yeah, you never
Yeah,
heard that
that's
story?
actually,
Yeah.
I have heard that story. That's actually good advice. That's good
Hmm.
advice, except change the name from Tiger Woods to whatever your name is.
That is a cool idea. You just come up and say, "Hi, this is my name." See what
Yeah,
happens, huh?
yeah, so there's two
I
ways
like it.
to like there's two ways to approach a woman, or there's two kinds of openers. I write about this.
Hmm,
There's indirect and there's direct.
hmm,
Indirect basically means, hey, I really like your hair, dress, skirt, cool outfit, something in the environment. You're not saying I'm here to flirt with you. You're talking about something in the environment. If you're standing in line at Starbucks, you say to the woman next to you, "Should I get a cake pop?" That's
hmm,
an indirect open because it's not
hmm,
about anything romantic. A direct open is something where you make your intention clear from the start. And that's okay to do. It's a little bit scarier, but the reason I thought of it is because one of the best direct opens you can ever give a woman, if you're feeling really confident, is basically the Tiger Woods move. Hey, excuse me, miss. I just had to say hi to you. Hi, my name's Connell. My name's Brad. My name's Tiger, whoever you are. The confidence to do that shows a woman so much value that you see in yourself, that alone can make a lot of women get really kind of, whoa, this guy believes in himself. And if you got good eye contact, good vocal tonality, that's a really powerful way to open a conversation. So you can go direct in that way too. And a lot of women who want a confident guy are going to be really excited that a man had the cojones to step up to them that way. So that was actually good advice that Charles gave Tiger.
We didn't even detour. We came right back into the
exactly.
the zone, into the
Golf
flow
and girls,
state, man. The flow state.
Yeah, golfing and dating. There's a lot of overlap.
Tell me some more about the overlap of golfing and dating. My overlap that I recall when I was a kid playing junior golf, and the pros always they were so slick, and they always had girls nearby, and slick dress, slick car. It seemed like they were very easy with the ladies, and maybe they were given a lot of lessons. Who knows what? But it seemed like the typecast for the teaching pro of the world. That was my memory from back in the day.
I think that the biggest overlap between golfing and dating is how it's probably, for both, I think it's 80% mindset, confidence, being comfortable in your own skin, and 20 to 25% technique, at least with dating. In golf, and technique is important, especially with putt. Maybe putting is a better example, because putting, there's all different kinds of putting styles work, different putters. You can break your wrist, you can use long putters, short putters, lots of different techniques work. Putting is all about confidence, right? Confidence and reps. You need reps and confidence. And dating is the same. You need experience, you need reps, and you need a little bit of self-confidence. How do you get that? Wow, that takes a lot of effort, but I think it starts with courage. Don't let a lack of confidence stop you from taking action, because in my view, courage is the currency that buys you confidence. I had no confidence when I started approaching women. Zero. I was scared to death. The first night I went out to approach women at a rooftop bar in New York City 13 years ago, I had the dry heaves in the men's room stall before we went out. I was petrified. And that's probably how a lot of people feel when they walk onto Augusta National, or they walk onto the big, tournament in their life.
The first tee,
at their
man.
club.
Yeah.
First tee, exactly. So what did I do? I could not summon confidence. I didn't have it. So I took action anyway. How? I used the value of courage. I call that a value. It's basically the secret weapon. You can't have confidence, but you can have courage. Guess what? If you take enough action with courage propelling you forward, the confidence comes. You buy it with that currency called courage. So now I can, within reason, I can approach a woman and be confident and know what to say and get connections, but I had to earn that. And a lot of men don't take the action they want because they say, oh, I don't feel confident enough to. I say, hell with that. Use courage, and you might be confident in 30 seconds when she smiles at you.
Right.
Or you might be more confident tomorrow night after you've approached your first 2 or 3 women, and tomorrow night you'll be more confident. So don't let a lack of confidence stop you from action. Use courage to buy that confidence.
Love it. Yeah, you can't fake the confidence. It's there, and it's going to come in due time and through hard effort or whatever. But the courage, anyone can summon that. So that's a good.
Yes.
It works for golf for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think it's actually easier in dating than golf, frankly. I'm way better as a dater than I ever got on the golf course.
But you entered into that role due mainly to a strong interest in golf, just as a casual player, and then you just took it and ran with it for many years. Did you travel on the tour and stuff like that?
Yeah, I met almost all the big players. I met Tiger. Phil was the only one I never actually met. I met all the biggies, Arnie. I interviewed Jack, amazing. And I followed it because I love writing, and I knew I'd be able to write about it. I wanted to write about something that I loved. And also I wanted to play a lot of golf for free. and get free lessons, which which is which was a thrill, and I loved it. I loved it.
So you talk about, having the devastating breakup and lacking confidence and dry heaves in the bathroom, and I think so many of us can relate to that. Maybe that small percentage of, the high school alpha male who was the starting quarterback and had a smooth sailing. Maybe 12.7% of the men are blank on this, but most of us have had to work through these painful lack of just straight ahead, simple skills to go up and approach a woman with an indirect. It's nothing, right?
Mm.
But how did we get to this point that it's such a difficult thing? You think there's some socialization or some cultural pressure because women are objectified in culture, and so therefore, our brains are in the wrong place or something?
Great question. This is super deep. Uh, I think there's two pieces to this. Why is approaching women so hard, is what you just asked. I think there's two reasons. One is that we have evolved as Homo sapiens to be
Mm,
comfortable in bands and groups. And I feel like on some level, actually a sports psychologist back in my golf days basically confirmed this, or I should say an expert in evolution and sports performance. He basically, I talked to him about golf, and then we switched over to dating because I was just beginning this journey of, of approaching women. And he said, well, I think what's happening here is that 200,000 years ago, we were on the savannas of East Africa, right? And if you quote unquote approached the tribal leader's woman, guess what? You got a rock to the back of your head, or you got kicked out of the band. Either way, you're dead. And I think the fear of public speaking, the fear of approaching, the
mm,
fear of negative social judgment, we've evolved to link that to death, pain, isolation, being basically extradited. So I think on some level there might be an evolutionary thing here happening, like really deeply internally. But what's much more common and more fixable, you can't fix that, it's evolution. But what's much more common is simply this misinterpretation that we have as men that pretty much almost every straight single man has a desire to feel attractive to women, right? To be the guy, the kind of guy who can get a beautiful woman in his life. Why wouldn't we all want that? And if you approach a woman and she rejects you, our brains are because of we doubt ourselves, and we misinterpret that information as rejection and proof of our lack of worthiness. So what happens, Brad, I've seen this so many times and I've felt this myself, is a man wants to talk to that woman, and if she likes him, he'll feel like he's a man, right? Sexy, confident, he'll be able to reproduce, he'll have a beautiful girlfriend. If she says no, he'll catastrophize that,
mm.
which is to misinterpret the quote unquote rejection as, oh, she rejected me because I'm too short, I'm not cool, which means I'll be lonely and have to only date inflatable women or settle, or so this psychology, this misinterpretation of that information turns an approach into judgment day on your very worth as a man and whether or not you'll have the
Hmm.
kind of woman in your life. That's heavy. That's
It's heavy in
existential.
it's heavy in eighth grade, dude, and then
Yeah.
again in 10th, and then again in 11th. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I mean, I don't think it'd be too heavy when you're 53 and have had years of experience. It shouldn't be too
Right.
heavy, but I can definitely relate to that. Those early things when you're not even sure of yourself as a person, and then you get rejected. Yeah,
Yes.
it's tough to come back from.
Well, what I do on that in-person coaching I do, I call it
Mm,
wingman boot camp type training.
mm.
The first thing I do for the night is they don't start out the night by approaching. I start the night out by approaching. And I
Ooh,
tell
pressure.
no, I
Yeah.
take it up even higher. Let's say, so I'd say if you were my client, we went to this rooftop club, rooftop bar, for example, it's hopping, beautiful women everywhere. I'd say, okay, Brad, look around. Who is the least approachable woman here? Who is
Mm,
the scariest, most unapproachable woman? And you might say, oh, that tall blonde on the dance floor surrounded by 6 of her girlfriends. I'd say, cool, she's my first approach of the night. So I walk over, high degree of getting rejected, almost a certainty, right? And I want my clients to see me get what I call
Mhm.
I call it getting blown out. I like to exaggerate it to the point of absurdity. So we take the fear out of it, but I say, all right, watch me get blown out, probably. Or I'll approach a couple that's making out. I'll approach a guy and a girl and I'll tap them on the shoulder and say, hey, can I cut in? And you should see the looks I get from the guys when I do that, by the way, from the guy who's making out with this girl. Usually the girl laughs. She thinks it's funny. And the guys are not happy I'm there. But anyway, I want them to see me get rejected so then I can poke myself and say, look, I'm still
Mm,
corporeal. I'm still
mhm.
here. I didn't burst into dust. I'm still awesome. I'm still enough. I'm still a really cool guy for lots of women. And I want my lesson or my clients to learn the same thing, as I want you to know that if you approach that woman and she rejects you, blows you out, you're still a man. You're still a great guy. If she loves you and she takes you home and you have a hookup with a bikini model, you're still a flawed regular dude. You're still a man. Um, we don't want to get too high or too low, but mainly
Yeah.
it's about not getting too low. So rejection is something to embrace, not something to fear. In fact, it's actually part of the process.
So we had a little hiccup in the routine here with quarantine for the last year and some. I think we're coming out of it in certain ways, but how did that affect the whole scene here and the people you coached and in general, how has it affected the single scene?
I think that for obvious reasons, people weren't going out, except in Miami, to meet to
Yeah, I
approach
know.
in real life.
Yeah, what's up with
Miami
that?
and
Yeah.
other pockets of the world. And yeah, I haven't been doing my in-person training for the last 14 months for COVID related reasons, just for health related reasons. But the silver lining to this is that I think we're about to enter, like right now, like literally right now, we're about to enter this golden age of going back to meeting people in real life. Even before COVID, there was a lot of dating app fatigue.
Oh,
I've been parts of focus groups. I've talked to a lot of people. A lot of women say pre-COVID, women were telling me, guys never approach me anymore. I'm so sick of the apps. I'd love just a cool guy to
wow.
come chat me up. It's
Uh-huh.
sexy. It makes us feel wanted. It makes
Yeah.
us feel interested. And that
There's a
was
market
before
niche,
15 months.
people. There's a
And that
market
was
niche here
but that was
before
before
COVID.
15 months
Yeah.
of lockdown. And
Yeah.
now that we've been on Zoom and FaceTime and the apps for the last year plus, I think that now is the perfect time to just get rid of the apps, get your head out of your apps, and walk up to an attractive stranger. We're dying for that human connection. And gents, you might be surprised how much women want the right guy to approach them. Do women want every guy to approach? No.
Mm,
Do women want a authentic, well-meaning, charming man to approach? Hell yeah. Even if she's not available, she'll say, thank you. You made my day. I'm wearing a ring, but you're amazing. Keep it up.
mm,
And I think that, yeah, I think that the second half of 2021 and beyond, it's going to be this new era of, hey, let's go out and meet people in real life. Because think about it. What's weirder? Online dating versus approaching. What's weirder? You tell me. Taking a rectangular box out of your pocket, swiping on it 87 times, finding a duck face looking woman who you find attractive, pressing a star, sending messages back and forth over this weird system, or doing what we've been doing for 200,000 years, which is,
mm,
oh, cute girl, let me go say hi, see if we hit it off. One of those things is way more natural and normal than the other.
mm-hmm,
But over the last 12 years or so, in the Tinder age, we've been kind of reconditioned. So I like both. I like having
mm,
a little bit of online dating fun and also meeting people in real life. I think that's healthy, but we don't want to do only online dating.
mm.
We were meant to meet each other in person, and so thank God for vaccines.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing you said a while back that you realized you were settling, as did your ex-wife. And how does someone know that they're settling? And where's that idea coming from? And in contrast to saying, well, no one's perfect, but we're going to work on this relationship and it has potential,
Mm.
rather than a black and white view.
I think that great question. No one's really ever asked me that.
I'm trying,
I don't
man.
think
I'm
you.
trying to
I
keep
don't.
this guy on his
Yeah,
toes, listeners.
you got me. It's funny. That's how I got the Jack Nicklaus interview. Is I pitched
How?
his agent and I said, I'm going to ask Jack
Mm,
questions he's never been asked before.
All right.
And the first thing he said to me on our interview was, "All right, Mr. Big
Mr.
Shot,
Big
what do you got?
Shot. Yeah.
What do you got? I hear you got some questions I've never heard." So it
Ooh.
worked. It worked.
What
Anyway,
did you ask him? What
um,
are some of your favorites?
oh man, I think I asked him, Jack, if you could travel back in time to visit your 18-year-old self and give him one piece of advice, what would you give? And for the life of me, I don't remember his answer, so I'm not gonna I'm not gonna pretend I remember. It's been a while, but he liked most of my questions. He did give me a
Nice.
little bit of shit. He said, I heard that one before, but not bad.
Just the
uh,
effort counts right there. Yeah.
yeah, but I think that before you get into a relationship, I think that it's in a guy's interest to be able to say, okay, I've dated around a little bit. I've had a few dates, a few girlfriends, or at least a handful of dates to kind of get a sense for who you vibe with and who you connect with. Because when I got married, I had never dated anybody before.
Mm,
I literally married the first woman who I thought loved me, and so I was coming from a place of scarcity. I didn't know
mm,
it was settling at the time. I just felt like, hey, this is the best I can do. I'd rather marry her than be alone, right? Which of course is a terrible mindset to have going into a
hmm.
wedding. And hers was similar actually in her own way. She was settling, she was totally settling for me. And so how do you know? I guess if you've never dated anybody and the first woman who kisses you and looks at you with big puppy dog eyes, if you think she's the one, maybe she is, but give yourself a few options. Give yourself a little bit of abundance. Not saying you have to date 5 women a week and be a player with some rotation. Not saying you can't, saying you don't have to, but I do highly recommend you get a sense of abundance, because the right way to kind of settle down with somebody, I feel, is to be able to say, wow, Jessica's awesome. And oh man, Isabella was, what a fun, wild little fling that was. But wow, there's just something about Allie. Gosh, she's like, we're like best friends, but sexual energy's there. And we just watched movies all night and it just felt so right. I think Allie's the one, because now you get to make a choice from a little bit of context
Hmm.
and reasonable number of options, instead of just trying to glom onto the first woman who likes you. So yeah, I recommend we try to make these relationship choices from a place of reasonable abundance.
Do we have an alternative problem today with an excess of choices and getting that strange sensation of I forget what the term is, where you're unsatisfied when they have research where you go to the car dealership, and if you have 23 choices and you make one, you're less satisfied than if you choose the best out of three.
Right. Yeah, I think that's called, is that something fatigue? Like
Yeah, the
not
decision
choice.
fatigue
Yeah,
and
decision fatigue.
yeah.
You can have too many options. Absolutely. Certainly a first world problem to have, but
Mm,
a champagne problem, but a problem nevertheless. And I I like to look at it like this. I think there's different categories of women based on where you are in your life as a man. There's like wrong person, wrong time. That's a bad
mm.
time to settle down. There's right person, wrong time, which is trickier. There's wrong person, right time. And that's what a lot of men find themselves in oh, I want to settle down, I'm ready for a
Mm,
relationship, but wrong person. What I ask men to do, there's a whole chapter about this in the book, is you want to get to that place where it's right time, of course, and right person, right time. So that's the model I think men should try to follow, is if you want to be single and quote unquote sow your oats for a little while, then do that to get that out of your system, or to experience a little bit of fun and dating fun, so that you can get to that point where you're like, okay, it's the right time for me now. I've sown some oats. Women
mm.
like me, all good. Now it's time to find that real incredible quality woman who I really connect with. And then when you get right woman, right time, boom, that's when you put a ring on it, as they say, literally or figuratively.
What percentage of men do you think today are looking for everlasting love to put a ring on it, and what percentage are seeing a future where it's going to be nonstop dopamine excitement
Mm,
with maximum expiration date 6 months to 2 years, or whatever? Because Wendy Walsh talks about this too, where now there's no more rules like there were in, let's say, our parents' generation, where there's a lot of social pressure to get married. If you don't get married by the time you are 2 years out of college, the pickings are going to get slimmer, and all this kind of stuff. Where today people can choose whatever life they want to live, and there's no obligation to reproduce anymore. We got enough people in the world, and women don't need a man for economic support as they did a few generations ago. So how does that look on the landscape today?
It's a great question about the percentage. I think the majority of men want a soulmate partner,
Mm.
long-term person in their life. At the same time, I think a majority of those men also want to have a little bit of variety. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think as men, we are wired to want to feel really sexy and significant about ourselves through the lens of women. I mean, think about it. What are the top 3 ways men feel like men? Top 3 or 4 ways: making lots of money, sports, muscles, and dating success, being with a beautiful woman or 2 or 3. And I don't think there's anything wrong with getting a little bit of variety. I enjoy Baskin Robbins more than any other ice cream store. At the same time, I don't want to be some 65-year-old guy who's at Baskin Robbins every week. I want one. I want one flavor. I want one flavor eventually. So I think most men. I think if I was going to give you like kind of like the not the ideal, but the most common sort of profile of a single guy, I think most guys would like to date around a little bit, have a little bit of fun, have a fling or two, or just get some experience to realize, hey, I'm good enough. Women do like me. I'm attractive, I'm sexy to plenty of women. Now that I've got that part of me handled, now let's settle down and find somebody uh, to know that I'm going to be able to have that love and connection, because we all need love. We all need that deep connection. Almost pretty much all of us, I think. So yeah, I think the number of men who are just like, I want to be at Baskin Robbins for the rest of my life, I think those guys are actually a small
Mm,
minority of men.
interesting. Um, I guess we should end asking you about your current status, and
Mm.
also, are you still single in New York City, or that's your deal right now?
Yeah, 2 years ago I fell in love with a woman. I
Oh,
wanted her to be the one. She is chapter 13 of my book. I dedicate the book to her.
oh,
It didn't work out. You
oh,
can find out why if you read the book. It's a really heartbreaking and heartwarming story at the same
mm,
time. So and I was about ready to start dating in March of 2020.
mm.
Gee, what could go wrong there?
Ladies and gentlemen, Connell is ready. He has announced he is ready. Yeah.
Right. I think the universe just said, no, now's not the right time for you. COVID's going to happen. So I took 2020 off from dating, and I've been back out there again the last 6 weeks, going on dates from online dating and basically practicing what I preach.
Mm,
And I have a date lined up tomorrow, actually, as we talk about this. And my goal is exactly what we've been talking about. I'm looking to get get back out there, feel good about dating, meet a few different women, and then absolutely as soon as is reasonably possible, settle down with somebody really
mm,
wonderful I feel connected with, who I can snuggle up with, who I feel that sexual connection with, because yeah, I've played the field. I'm so lucky to have been able to get the kind of validation and confidence from women that I never had for the first 38 years of
mm,
my life.
mhm,
And that felt great for a lot of years off and on, but it's I feel that's candy for the ego. That's
mm,
that kind of like jumping around, bed hopping, just flings only. There's a time and place for that for many men, but it's really ego for the candy for the ego. I want something long term, more nutritious. So yeah, I'm looking for I tell guys I'm Hitch, or I tell women on Bumble on dating apps, hey, I'm Hitch, looking for Aziva Mendez, which is definitely where I am right now.
Ah,
So
love it. Uh, does this issue ever arise of your life's work and your profile? You know what I mean? Like, are you recognized when you're out there with a client ever, or when you get to dating and you're being your radical, authentic self? I
mm,
suppose there might be a certain percentage of dates that would feel intimidated or uncomfortable. due to your vast knowledge of what's happening in real time, and maybe your perspective from the 20,000 foot level, where they're going to be watching what they say because you're the ultimate perception and redirection person. I don't know.
Yeah, that goes away after about 5 or 10 minutes when a woman feels
Nice.
me
All
being
right.
really genuine
Yeah.
and present.
Right. Yeah.
I don't
Just like
really
on this
teach.
interview. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
yeah,
You
I
felt
haven't
authentic to
really.
me. How about you, listeners? This guy he wasn't trying to pull a fast one on us and sell more books, even though you're going to sell more books. You were doing it the right way. I love it.
Yeah. Well, when you're really radically authentic, which includes being present, being really
Mm.
present with that person listening, there's nothing to get caught doing. A good friend of mine, said, "Oh, Connell, you're screwed when your book comes out with your dating life because all your moves are in the book." And I said to her, "But wait a minute, like really the moves are be super awesome
Mm,
and find out if that woman likes your awesomeness."
hmm.
Like, how do you get caught doing that? Um, but there's one cool lesson I've learned in the last 6 weeks that I can share with your listeners because this is important. Um, I lean into the whole dating coach thing on my profile. I lean hard into it. I say, hey, I'm a dating coach for men.
Mm,
I'm Hitch, looking for
mm,
Aziza Mendez.
mm,
That women either really love that, and I hear from them because I know, or a lot of them probably don't. A lot of them probably won't swipe on that, which is totally
mm.
fine. Just
Yeah.
as in approaching and in any kind of dating situation, you want to make sure your online dating profile has a very clear avatar that kind of just jumps off of a woman's phone that says who you are, whatever that might be. I'm a dating coach. Maybe you're an adrenaline junkie, or maybe I have a client who's like a self-help nerd, and
Mm,
his profile is all about he loves extremes, he's into self-improvement, he goes to
mm.
seminars, and there's kind of a sense of like extremes, and women like that. So don't water down your profile. Lean into like a clear, simple avatar that's high value, but also different than all the other guys. And that's what's going to get women to kind of break out of their swiping hypnosis and say, oh, this is an interesting guy. A podcast host who also is a golf nut, that's different. That's not, I like long walks on the beach.
Mm,
That's important.
yeah.
Tons of great matches and leads. And so find your avatar, whoever you are, a single dad, a jock, a bad boy, if that's your thing, although most men aren't, a super nerd. Find a clear, simple avatar to kind of show women who you are. And that's going to speak to like that market of women. That's how you get lots of matches on the apps.
Oh my gosh, love it. Great takeaway advice.
Or
Dating
tell them you're a
sucks, but
dating
you
coach.
don't. There you go. Yeah, even if you're not,
No, don't do that. Don't do
we'll,
that. If you're
we'll
not,
work that
don't
out.
do that.
You can become one. Oh, Connell Barrett, great interview. Dating sucks, but you don't is the name of his new book. Go get it on Amazon or wherever you like to get books. And how else can we connect with you, including taking it all the way to the private client outing on the rooftop? That sounds enticing to someone in the right category.
Yeah, absolutely. They can go to my website, which is datingtransformation.com.
Mm.
And on datingtransformation.com, lots of free tips. I have a free video series where every week they get free tips from me. And there's also a way to reach out to me if you're interested in coaching.
Thank you for listening, everybody. Thank you, Connell Barrett. Da, 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 da.